over about, I don't know, something like probably, I don't know, what, 20,000 copies a week, and then also digital and all that. And the whole thing, but not only stays within Palm Beach County, it goes outside through the whole state and even across the shining sea, to Puerto Rico. So, so it is a lot. So what we would like to do tonight is to tell us, when you look at your perspective, I know you've been already, first you were appointed, then you were elected, correct? And then now
let me say there. So let me say, as many of you know, I can tell you that I had the good fortune of being appointed in 2015.
Right.
I had the good fortune of being elected without opposition in 2016.
That's right.
And then I was elected in a contested race, or reelected in a contested race in 2018. And then this is my election for my final term before term limits kick in for seat 3. And the deal there is that because I filled the unexpired term of now Circuit Judge Howard Coates, that is how I get more than just the 8 years. That's how that works.
That's good. So therefore, and I'm thinking all about geography. Geography you call Wellington only, right?
Yes.
The city of Wellington. Okay.
And we don't have districts or anything like that, so we run in the entire city, the entire municipality.
Okay. So one of the things we look at is, okay, when we individuals like yourself in Wellington, in many other cities, that we participate in this, and we encourage voting, voting encouragement or participation. It is okay when you look at the business, because yes, we'll call it the Hispanic Political Action Committee, but at the same time, it's about getting people, whether they're Hispanic or not, to participate in the process, of getting registered to vote. And many of those individuals have to go through a process of getting, quote unquote, legalized in the county, and at the same time, we do endorse candidates, but not based in political affiliation. It's based on qualification. What is it that you have done? How you've been working with the community, how you were working with the city. And obviously, and you and I know about the history, the population of Wellington, when I moved here was barely, not even 15,000 people, and now it's over 65,000, according to the 2020 census.
That's right. And we are the 5th largest, and we compete with Jupiter. We switch back and forth as the 5th largest municipality in Palm Beach County. We now are a real cross section of the community. The Hispanic population is our largest non-white population. And so that is something that I am particularly cognizant of for a lot of reasons. I think not the least of which is that my wife and all of my in-laws are Puerto Rican, and I am raising 2 Hispanic daughters in Wellington. And so that matters to me. It matters to me a lot. And the biggest thing that I think we have to think about when you say, what are we doing for the Hispanic community? I would say that municipal government is not just an agency of place where you can do things for people. You can't do things for one interest group or another. So the question is, how are our policies overall advancing the Hispanic population in Wellington? And I would talk to you about 2 primary sets of programs. One is, it is not lost on me that the 2 elementary schools in Wellington that have the largest population of free and reduced lunch also have the largest population of Hispanic and African American students. Mm-hmm. So what Wellington has done is, Wellington is a community that has created and under my leadership, we have advanced the funding of what we call the Keely Spinelli Grant Program. And Wellington is the only community in all of Palm Beach County, and that this program is now just being copied, announced by Mayor Keith James in his State of the City address in West Palm Beach about 10 days ago.
Right.
But the Keely Spinelli Grant Program gives $40,000 of Wellington tax dollars to every one of the 11 Wellington public schools, but as a grant. But it's not just a gift. It's not just, hey, here's this money. It is a grant that has to be earned in as much as the school principal and the school advisory council have to come to the Wellington Education Council, well, our Wellington Education Committee, present a plan specific and targeted for the lowest performing 25% of the students in reading and math at that school, and how they're going to take the money and raise those test scores. And why is that important? Because it ensures then two things. One, in Wellington, we don't have any Title I schools, so we're not really getting those federal dollars.
Right.
So we are helping our lowest performing kids in the way that state and federal dollars might help in other communities. Number two, what we're doing is ensuring that we then have 11 A-rated public schools, top to bottom. Every school in Wellington is A-rated. And that is critically important to all residents, but particularly to minority residents, because it ensures that you can move to Wellington, start in an elementary school that's A-rated, matriculate to a middle school that's A-rated, and matriculate to a high school that's A-rated, and you don't have to move. A lot of places in Palm Beach County, you can go to a great elementary school or a great middle school, but then when you matriculate to the next level, you have to move. What does that give back to our residents? That gives back to our residents increased home value. That's the value added to Wellington. And so we know that we get that money back many folds over in increased property values. So we have had 9 years of increasing property values, the bulk of which correlate with this grant program and other things that we are doing, which has then allowed us to hold the millage rate in Wellington, what will be when we finish with the agreement that we're currently operating under, at the 15-year millage average of 2.47 mils. Now think about that. No millage increases in 15 years overall on average. So that's program number one that we're doing that has made a huge difference, I believe, to all communities of Wellington, but I think particularly minority communities. Secondly, we've made significant investments in our community services program and our community policing program, and had programs specifically targeted at youth to get them involved in training for their professional future. We have a program called Students Working to Achieve Greatness that gives internships directly. Now that we counsel these students throughout the year, but then we place 20 of them in Wellington businesses every summer in paid internships to get them ready to go and actively participate in the workforce before they have entered college and before they have reached the real professional age to enter the workforce. And so these are the kinds of things that we're looking for, creative ways that a municipality can actually impact our communities of need throughout. And the third and final thing that we've done is we have rewritten our entire code of ordinances, our comp plan, our permitting process to make it simpler and more understandable to everyone, which particularly affects minority communities that are coming to Wellington to reinvest. Juan, and you know this, the houses that you first owned, the house that I grew up in, we want those houses now to be remodeled in a DIY rebuild for the future, bring in new families to be the next generation that's going to carry Wellington forward from its first 25 years on to being a 50-year-old city. So that those are just a few of the things that we're doing that I think have clear and definable and measurable impact on all the residents.
Thank you very much. You know, one of the questions we have is regarding, okay, businesses. You know, I know that in Wellington, businesses have flourished left and right, A to Z. You know, now within the Hispanic business or African American business in Wellington, what kind of presence is right now?
Well, not a very large one, and I think that is unfortunate. But I am seeing new minority-owned businesses coming to Wellington, largely in the service sectors, because there's no major center of industry in Wellington. Wellington has to be true to itself. And as you know, when we were created long before we became a city, in the 20 years before we became a city, we were essentially a large HOA. And as a large HOA, there was not an emphasis on bringing industry or business or offices to Wellington. So there's not a significant plot of land or space for that. So most of the business in Wellington is small business, service-related business, and most importantly, what we are finding is coming to Wellington, particularly post-pandemic. And I think this is where you see a lot of Hispanic business and other minority-owned business is in home business, literally out of your home business. A great amount of that has come to Wellington post-pandemic. And so we have streamlined our business tax receipt process, and we have made it easier for those businesses to function easily in the light of day publicly in Wellington.
I do recognize that, and I see, you know, this in a horse-driven community, you know, for many, many years, you know, and I was part of that when I came here. So one of the things, you know, we like to do is, so how can we make this available? And now is information of this quote unquote help is going to be available in more than one language.
I think it already is available in multiple languages in Wellington.
Well, that's if you go to the you know, it's going to be a Google translation. But if they get to apply, they're going to find some doors that are locked. So the thing is, how we're going to help that make it more prevalent, more, you know, accessible, and again, attract small businesses, you know, whether Hispanic, African American, Creole, Haitians, or whatever.
Correct.
You know, so.
Correct. So I think if you're telling me, and I want to ask you, are you telling me that the forms, the online processes that Wellington uses are not available in multiple languages?
That I will have to double check, you know, but the last time I looked at, you know, it was only English, you know, so, and I could be wrong, don't get me wrong, you know, but it's about, okay, we want to make it this.
Because let me tell you right now, Wellington cannot be the city that I envision, the city that is true to the principles that brought my family to Wellington. If we don't have, at minimum, I need all of our forms to be available in Spanish and Creole 100%. And I believe, I know in some instances, but I don't want to attest to it, that we have people that speak those languages in both permitting and in building.
I know
The
they do.
main areas of contact that we have. But I will commit to you today that that is something that must occur. And if that is not the case, you and I can both go verify it, and that's something that's easily corrected. I mean, that doesn't require a tremendous amount of work to get that corrected.
I would like to give the opportunity to some of the members of the committee to participate. So, Valentin, you have a question? Quítale el mute. Estás muted.
Sí. Bueno, buenas tardes. Soy el pastor Valentín Fontanes. En ese mismo lado que está preguntando de que si hay negocios, empresas hispanas en Wellington, yo como pastor en las reuniones hemos hablado que para construir iglesias hispanas en Wellington se complica, se hace un poco más difícil. Por eso es que casi hay muchos hispanos en Wellington, pero no se han dado muchos permisos de construcción de iglesias hispanas. Él sabe algo de eso, y si él gana, él de alguna manera ayudaría para fomentar que iglesias hispanas se puedan construir en Wellington.
He's asking about, okay, what, as a pastor of the Hispanic, he represents the Hispanic Pastors Association of Wellington. That's over 500 churches in Palm Beach County, and Hispanic churches, all the way from Lantana, all the way up to Jupiter, that are residents of here. And one of the things is about one of the issues they have encountered is that in Wellington, to build a Hispanic church, they find many closed doors. So how can they approach this? What are the efforts to be done that this facilitate, given that the increasing population, Hispanic population, that more churches, Hispanic churches could be in Wellington? Because remember, it's not only about Catholics, it's not only about Protestant, it's not about Baptists, no. It's an encompass of a lot of stuff.
I understand. And I think that's a very tough question. And I think this is what Wellington confronts. Wellington is to some degree a victim of its own success, in that we have a land problem.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say we have a land problem, it's a lack of land problem.
Right.
And so a Hispanic church that wants to build a church and plant roots in the community is going to face a very, very tough challenge, because there is not very much available land at all, if any, that is going to be able to be affordable for a not-for-profit religious institution. And that's a challenge. And there's just no way around that. And I don't know that I have a governmental way I don't know that I have any tools in my toolbox to fix that. I think that if a Hispanic church is opening in a retail establishment or a storefront or something along those lines, then I think there's a lot that we can do to walk them through the process. But in regards to the available land where a church could go, that's a real challenge.
Thank you, John. Valentín, ¿entendiste lo que él?
Que es un reto tremendo porque no hay mucha tierra y todo eso.
Okay, and I'm only thinking out loud, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If there, I don't know, a municipality facility that could be, quote unquote, rented to organizations like the churches. That they,
Well, now in that regard, there absolutely is. And there's at least two places that we have as a village. And then there is what I know is happening throughout Wellington. So first of all, we just built, and not in the last 5 years, we've completed a beautiful brand new Wellington Community Center. that
Right.
replaced what you knew, Juan, as the Wellington Club back in the day, the
Right.
sales center for Wellington. So there are multiple spaces in that building that could be used for regular church meetings and church activities and the like.
You know, but at the same time, to make it accessible and affordable, because obviously, you know, when we look at the reality of today, you know, and I'm talking about.
Well,
the
but Juan,
statistic-
this is a government building.
I know, I know.
It is accessible and affordable now because the rates are dramatically lower. And
Okay.
also the rates that are going to be charged to 501c3 that are going to be charged to religious institutions is very different than the rates that are going to be charged, or that are going to be charged, let's say, to the Boys and Girls Club and things like that, are going to be very different than the rates that are going to be charged to the McGovern wedding party or to somebody's
To a club.
bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. So that is already there
All right, cool.
and something that is available. Now, the same is true. There's other facilities at Village Park that could similarly be used in the Village Park gym or in outdoor space, but covered outdoor space at Village Park. And then the third option, of course, is many churches meet across Wellington in schools through agreements both with the school district or interlocal agreements between the village and the schools. And those are the places that are also available.
Pastor Valentin, eso,
Perfecto. Ujú.
perfecto. Sam,
Thank you, Juan. Mr. McGovern, I really don't have any question. I was looking at through the website and yeah, and I don't see the forms that are translated into Spanish or Creole. But at the same time, I want to thank you for committing to working on that.
Are you talking now, Sam? We're talking about on wellingtonfl.gov,
Yes,
and the forms are the and Juan, excuse me, Sam, the forms are there in English,
in English, yes, sir.
and you could just download them.
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing I need to know is, do we have them in the other languages and they're not just online? Okay, so I got to find out.
Yeah, I'm able to download the forms, but they are only in English, as far as I can tell, unless there's another way that I'm not seeing on your website that we'll be able to translate it to another.
Well, right, and that's but they both need to be available on it needs to be available on the online. You shouldn't have to come in and ask for them. If we have them in another language, you shouldn't have to come in and ask for them. They should just be there 1, 2, 3, or whatever it is.
That is correct. And I want to thank you for committing to working on that. Also want to congratulate you.
I just think that one is obvious. I think that one just, I can't even believe that couldn't be done. And I imagine that I can, make a phone call tomorrow and have that done.
Very good. Well, we thank you for that, and thank you for your time, and wish you the best results in your campaign.
Thank you. Thank you. And Sam, I think I cut you off when you were saying something else.
No, that was it. That was it.
you know,
Juan, this is Santos Arroyo. I have a quick
Santos
question.
Arroyo.
John, are you aware more or less how many businesses are within the city limits of Wellington?
When you count home businesses and the very significant influx of that number, I can't give you an exact number. But I would have to look that up and come back to you on that.
All right, thanks.
You know, and one of the things we look is at safety. I know that PBSO has been, in Wellington for many years now, and it's been a great service. How do you see the service of PBSO?
So PBSO and Palm Beach County Fire Rescue are the required law enforcement and fire EMS provider in Wellington by charter. That is in the original Wellington Village Charter, that PBSO and Palm Beach County Fire Rescue will be the public safety emergency first responders to Wellington. So that will never be called into question. There is not a question of that being changed. And the only way it could be changed would be with a vote of the electorate. The relationship with PBSO in Wellington is really second to none. I am proud to have the endorsement of the PBA, of the Fraternal Order of Police, of Sheriff Bradshaw himself, of State Attorney Ehrenberg. It means a lot to me to have all of the first responders and all of the first responder organizations standing with me. We in Wellington have a very close working relationship with District 8 PBSO, Captain Rolando Silva and his team. Wellington is not no crime, but we are very low crime. One of the lowest cities with a crime rate in Palm Beach County and one of the lowest in all of the state of Florida. But that doesn't mean that we still don't have things to do. And so I've worked very closely. As you recall, just before the pandemic, there was a very tragic DUI that occurred during equestrian season. We got together with PBSO, we had an open forum, we created an operation that was ran that next season called Wild Stallion. And then in the second season, we created the next season, we had a second program called Operation Wild Stallion 2, specifically targeting a decrease in DUIs, and we got it. We are now currently the #1 law enforcement issue, but it's law enforcement and fire rescue issue is car crashes in Wellington. These are not crimes, but this is something that affects what our first responders are doing every day. And so we're now in the middle of an operation called Bent Metal to decrease distracted driving, drivers that are texting, drivers that are on the phone, drivers that are speeding, not just to write tickets, but to decrease traffic crashes. And one of the things that has been a top priority for me since I was elected has been decreasing the intersection of Forest Hill and 441 on the list of most dangerous intersections in Palm Beach County. And we have steadily been decreasing. Now that will never be an ultra safe intersection because there are so many lanes that are coming into connection there, but it is something that we have to focus on each and every day. And the final thing I just want to talk about in regards to PBSO is we've had a tremendous partnership with them on two things. One is community policing, up to and including that we host a day for autism put on by PBSO and many community groups to bring the autism community all throughout the county to Wellington to help autistic individuals and children be able to better interact with law enforcement and first responders, so that is not such a scary interaction. And then on a completely different gear, we have invested our law enforcement trust fund money in license plate readers. And these are not active cameras, but these are license plate readers that take photos of license plates so that when crime comes to Wellington or car theft comes to Wellington, it doesn't get to leave at another exit point without us knowing where you entered and where you left, which then allows a tremendous greater likelihood of making an arrest in those cases because we know where you're going, where you're headed, and we can pass it on to the next brother or sister law enforcement agency. And that has really brought down our car burglaries. One of the great problems that we've had the whole time that I've been on council in regards to crime that we've talked about is cars where our residents have either left them unlocked with the keys in them, left them unlocked with the keys, valuables, and handguns in them. And we literally had gangs coming to Wellington, walking through gated communities because as you know, in more expensive cars, what happens when the car is locked? The mirrors turn in on the side of the doors. And they would just walk through communities in the middle of the night, look for the ones where the windows weren't turned in and start just opening all those cars and stealing the valuables, stealing potentially handguns, and stealing the cars. The license plate readers and an awareness campaign that we've worked on for the last 3 years has brought those numbers dramatically down. So I'm very, very proud of our partnership with PBSO and the support that I have from those groups.
I apologize. I have to answer the door. You know,
Understood.
not a problem. Santos, do you have any other question?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
No, John, we would like to say thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us. You know, I definitely, like we talked before, I would like to meet with you. You let me know when you're available, and so we can set up. Pastor Valentin, you're okay? So thank you very much.
Thank you,
We'll
Sam.
look-
Thank
we'll
you.
do it. And say hello to your boss at the home.
Yes, she's the boss of everything, but I will check with her, and I appreciate you all, the opportunity of having this conversation. I would love your endorsement. I would love the support of your members and your community. And I would hope to have it. So thank you very much.
You know, and one of the things we look at also is the